You might just bring a smile to someone's face.
Good morning.
Time to get ready for your day with the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle. Join us live on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM or the VTRN Sports app. Open VTRN Sports on your smart speaker or stream live on YouTube. Time to get ready for your day with the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and Ty Tracy.
.703 on this Wednesday, March 18th. Welcome back to the morning warm-up. I'm Trey Lyle. That's Ty Tracy. Ty.
Yes.
We got it, baby. March is here. And yesterday, boy, oh boy, did it get us the first taste of March, with in case you missed it.
Keeping up with sports 24/7 takes some serious effort, especially when you're sleeping. Don't worry, the morning warm-up stays alert around the clock. Now here is everything you missed last night.
Everything you missed last night. Two good games that you could have heard right here on VTRN Sports, starting with Howard defeating UNBC 86-83 to get their first win ever in the NCAA tournament. Good win there from the Bison of Howard. The leading score for them was Okajiki.
No, ask me the name.
Okojie. Bryce Harris also had 19 points and 14 boards. Pretty good game. But yeah, Howard gets their first ever win in the NCAA tournament. And by the way, if you're the cool part about having the two 16 seeds, like two games of 16 seeds in the first four, is that you actually get the big part of the NCAA tournament where a lot of these lower major schools make their money is that they can get units, and you get 1 unit per win in the NCAA tournament. So like if you make, like for example, when like VCU made the Final Four, the CAA got, I think it was like from the first like 5 units, 6 units, and those happen over 3 years. So the MEAC, the Conference of Howard, will get a unit because they're going to lose to Michigan. Just spoiler alert for that. I mean, if they don't, I will eat my words. I'll be one of the. You could argue, considering how good this Michigan team is, right up there with the UNB. Ironically, UNBC over Virginia, who they played. But the cool part about the two 16 seeds is that you get a unit, and the MEAC is going to get, I think it's like $2 million over the next 3 years. So which is big for a conference like the MEAC. The other game was awesome. Texas almost blew it. I tweeted NC State's imploding. It was like an 8-0 run from Texas, and then all of a sudden, in a minute, NC State scores 9 points and ties the game, and then it leads to this moment as we end it.
Inbounds to Pope, and we go. Shot clock off. 14, 13 over half. Weaver to center with Cody. 66 up to face BYU Thursday. 7 left now, 6. Mark the lefty. He's been awesome. Jab step with 2. Follow away. Yeah! He got it! Inside the right wing, they stop the clock with 1.0.
Tremont Mack hits the game winner with 1 second left, which, again, I said I was going to, typically listen to the VTR Sports app, but I was watching this on TV. Having Dickie V and Charles Barkley on the call just was so good. But yes, they get it done. Texas advances to takes on BYU. That's the team they play. And if you did hear a loud scream in the Lynchburg area last night, kind of like a Ty Gibbs loss, that was Ed Lane getting upset that his NC State Wolfpack, led by his guy, Will Wade, Lost last night.
I should. Well, last night I was on the phone with my girlfriend, like usual, on FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
And the words I said,
Can't say on the air.
I can't say on the air, but I said like, this is why we call March blank madness. And she was like, is that necessary? I'm like, yes.
No, there's only one word to use for these moments, and I gotta get it clipped now that we're in March. But you go onions. Shout out to Bill Rafferty. That's that was some onions. But yes, that was a fun game. It was really boring. It was a really boring game. Hence why. But then like all of a sudden, so like just to put in perspective, these two teams that played in Maui, it was the complete opposite of that game. So the first time these two teams played, the final score was 102-97. It's 68-67.
The defensive game.
So like if you took the combined points of this game, Texas almost beat. No, they didn't. They lost like by 10. But still, considering Texas scored 102 in the first one and 68 in the second. But yeah, it was a fun one. And NC State, I think year one under Will Wade, little disappointing towards the end, but that shot was awesome. I mean, it was also and they got a good inbounds pass for NC State on the final play, and it just got blocked. But yes, Will Wade, I don't think will head to LSU. He'll have a year two at NC State, and Texas advances to take on BYU, and I know, maybe the number one pick in the draft, AG Devanza. So good luck with that. But yeah, March is here. Tonight, America's team is in action, of course. So as we'll have Prairie View, A&M, and Lehigh, and then America's team, Miami of Ohio, taking on another ACC team in SMU. That's the other games tonight. We'll have those 6:30 airtime right here on VTR in Sports. But we'll also have good news. We'll also have some Tech baseball for you starting at 2:30 today. Of course, as Virginia Tech will take on Virginia Commonwealth University, aka VCU. So, speaking of baseball, something that died last night was the bats of the Americans. Anyone except Bryce Harper decided not to show up as the Venezuela upsets Team USA in the World Baseball Classic final. This was a really good baseball game. If you watched it, it was a really good baseball game.
I'm so mad I missed it last night. I was so busy watching basketball.
Well, you need to get YouTube TV, because then you can run the multi-view. That's what I did.
See?
It's also great for, granted, use the VTR in sport. If you're out and about and can't get to a TV, use the VTR in Sports app, and we'll have whip around coverage. So, like, if you're worried you're going to miss a game during the NCAA tournament on the VTR in Sports app, guess what? Great news. They do whip around coverage, so you'll get basically the finish of every game. So don't worry about that. We'll also, of course, have Virginia Tech women's basketball, their opening round game, ironically, in Austin against Texas. Texas getting a lot of mentions today as they take on Oregon, the Ducks, in the 8-9 matchup. By the way, the only hitter that showed up was Bryce Harper, who hit a 2-run homer in the 8th inning to tie it. But Eduardo Suarez basically hit a double in the 9th to give Venezuela a 3-2 lead. Yeah, U.S. bats didn't show up, and yes, for Bryson Gordon, who joins us later, who will try to dunk on me about Mr. Judge, who was over 4. His boy hit. You know who's the pitcher that gave up the game-winning run?
Who?
A Red Sox. You know who was the last player to strike out, ultimately losing the game?
Who?
A Red Sox. So he can be quiet.
I bet y'all gonna be like that Spider-Man memes, start pointing at each other.
We probably will. If
you need a third person, I'll join.
You can go right ahead. As now we are joined by a man who is never not in the clutch. I tried my best to make a transition there, but Lake Lewis, Lake, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Glad to have you on here on Wednesday. But let's dive right into a couple headlines from the NFL big picture. Always something interesting is the NFLPA reestablished their executive committee and it elected a new executive chairman of the Players Association, which was actually a former or executive director, J.C. Treader. Obviously, it comes as the director Lloyd Howe had to resign, uh, and after reports of improper funds. But J.C. Treader was also part of that group. Not granted, he didn't do the said actions, but he was also it's not like he wasn't culpable in this. What do you think about this move where it feels like they're picking someone still connected to the past regime of the NFLPA?
Yeah. Um, listen, I thought the same thing. Not that he's Treader, should be held liable, or even in connection with the terrible stuff that happened before. But he is still part of that tree, and it just seems like, they didn't do well, what I was told, and I even saw it as well. They vetted like 300 people supposedly for the position. So if that's the case and they feel like he's the best person to lead them going forward, okay, then fine with that. But if not, if you feel like you already had cherry picked and already knew who you were going with, then what was the purpose of all the other people, and why even say that many people in the first place? Sometimes you hear stuff like this and it's kind of like, we live in a world of there's a lot of nepotism and things like that. If people are already given the job without, other people having a viable opportunity to campaign for it or interview for it, then that makes it something else. But in this situation, we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, he's going to be heavily scrutinized and looked at because of what happened before. Um, and I wouldn't even say illegal use of campaign money. It was of the funds. It was, if you knew what those funds were used for, then you would be like, okay, maybe they should have gone, fresh start across the board.
Yeah, and of course he was going to be tapped as the interim director and actually resigned at that time. He was unaware of how Hal was concealing player arbitration findings related to NFL owners. Like apparently he was saying that he was not a part of
Yeah,
and you know, shout out to Pablo Torre and ESPN that did a really good job on breaking this all down
100%. Yeah,
on
yep.
like what led to the reason why they had to have this vote. But David White, which was he was the interim executive director, who was the former Hollywood Actors Union chief, which is SAG, and then the American Conference Commissioner Tim Pernetti were the other two candidates. And ironically, the Tim Pernetti news, like the report came out right before the announcement, and you're like, oh, okay, we know where this is going. But let's move to actual football that's going to affect the field. Obviously, this is a bigger picture issue that's going to affect the league long term. But going to the Commanders, latest moves with the Commanders, something intriguing. Cheka Okonkwo is a tight end they signed. Uh, this is someone they bring in that obviously they've been using Zach Ertz the last couple of years. They've hoped Benson on it would develop, but they bring in a tight end that I would argue has been, as someone who's had him on his fantasy team multiple times, maybe underutilized in Tennessee. It feels like this is a pretty underrated signing that you don't hear about now that could be a really boom piece for this Washington offense.
Yeah, I like the signing a lot. He, for me, was right up there with Isaiah Likely, as far as the one of the two tight ends that you had to get if you were Washington. They definitely, desperately needed a tight end in that room to help take pressure off Jaden and take pressure off the wide receivers in the offense. So for them to be able to get, the 1A or 1B tight end that was available was a coup by Adam Peters. And, I really like how, just knowing how their offense should look this year. I really think that this was a home run for them. And I like how he's going to fit in there. When I spoke with him last week, it was about some of the narratives out there that he's not a good blocker and all those things, and he said that that's what it was. It was just that it was narratives. And and looking at the tape of him in Tennessee, they moved him around quite a bit. He played some H-back, some fullback. I mean, he was all over the place, and those are normally positions where you do have to be a little bit more physical if you're going to play them. So I do think that they're getting a physical tight end who's known for yards after his catches. So yeah, I think he's their opening day starting tight end in the building.
At Lake Lewis Jr. Check out the Lake Lewis Jr. show wherever you get your podcast. Obviously, it's Fan Friday, where you can join in on that. Do want to plug that because it's always a fun show. I know Lake enjoys that.
Appreciate
Probably
that.
probably his favorite show during the week outside of doing this every week. But looking at the Commander signings, so we've talked about obviously the future of Brandon Ayuk, and once he gets settled, if and I'm going to put an if because I've always believed what you've thought about it, he will be a Commander eventually, but with the other stuff going on in Brandon Ayuk's life, let's get that figured out first, and then he becomes a Commander. But it's a lot of a Sun Devil reunion. Another former Arizona State Sun Devil with Jaden Daniels, Rashad White, who signs. The running back room is quite interesting. They add Rashad White, they add Jerome Ford, building real depth in that room. Obviously, they have Bill Krosky-Merritt. First, what did you think of the two running backs? And third, and then the second part of that question is, does that kind of indicate they are going away from Jeremiah Love in the draft?
Great question. And that seems to be what most people are starting to assume. I'll say this. I don't think any of those guys on their best days are as good as Jeremiah Love. Okay. And that's not being disrespectful. It's just, it's the way I had to preface it to let you understand the severity of how good Jeremiah Love really is. He's a generational talent. And I think for Washington, though, that they've given themselves wiggle room, and they've done that across all of their free agency signings. It's wiggle room. They've given themselves opportunities now to not have to be pigeonholed into holding on to the number 7 pick. If there's someone there that's, maybe 2, 3 guys that they really, really like, and when they come to the podium at 7, perhaps they could even trade back a couple spots if they can recuperate another draft pick. So they've given themselves, some flexibility. And I think as far as that running back room, though, remember Jeremy McNichols signed back as well on a 1-year deal. So now they have 4 backs. As of this time last week, they didn't have any. They had Bill Krosky-Merritt, but outside of that, they didn't have anyone else under contract in that running back room. So now you have 4, and you have 4 decent running backs. I mean, they're all good in their own way. Rashad White to me is a younger Austin Eckler. That's literally what I see. A guy that can, catch the ball out the backfield. He's really good at that. And he's an explosive guy too. So I think he fills that void of Austin Eckler. If you look at Jerome Ford, he's a special teams guy too. He's a guy that was really good on kickoff returns and doing things like that over his career. And he's another guy that can catch the ball out the backfield. So they're giving themselves, opportunity. I do think though that Jeremiah Love is, not that I think, I know Jeremiah Love is definitely still in their plans. Should he be there at number 7, they would seriously consider going to the podium and taking that guy.
As we get closer and closer to the draft is what, a month-ish away, a little more than a month away.
Yep.
The conversation, and you can go big picture around the league, is, well, this is like a 6-7 player draft. People are going to be trading for draft capital in 2027. Obviously, Jalen Waddle just got traded for a first-round pick. We'll see what happens with A.J. Brown. Like, everything indicates that he's going to get traded around. If he gets traded, it'll be around June 1st. But looking at this, if you're the Commanders, and if you're a team in that area that's kind of could be out of the window to get the blue chip prospect, which the Commanders at 7 are kind of in that dangerous spot where they could miss out on, the kind of high end players in this draft. Not
Mhm.
saying at 7 there are not bad players, just like there are different levels, as you mentioned with Jeremiah Love. Do you think they would prioritize 2027 draft capital?
I don't. I think that they're in win mode now. They were just 2 years away from getting to the Super Bowl, a game away from the Super Bowl, and I think that most people, in the building feel like they didn't have a fair opportunity last year to see if they could get back because the injury bug just jumped on them before the season even started. They never got going, and I feel like when you see the roster today on paper compared to the roster last year, going into the season, you can make a clear argument, distinction that this roster looks even better than last year's roster going into the season, and they felt like they were a Super Bowl caliber football team. So I think they feel like that everything's in front of them right now. And they still have the seventh pick, regardless if they trade out or if they keep it, they still have, like I said, flexibility to make themselves even better as a team. So, I've been saying this though, Trey, that I think that there's legit 8 to 9, realistically 8 blue chippers in this year's draft that you can come away if with one of those picks, 1 through 8, you can make an argument that every last one of those guys, talent wise, could have been the number one pick in the draft. Obviously, we know the Raiders are taking Fernando Mendoza. So you can realistically say that any of those guys, 2 through 8, could have been and maybe should have been the number 2 pick in the draft. Washington's picking 7 with an opportunity to get a talent that could have been as high as number 2. So they're gonna be okay. I don't think they're gonna looking ahead to next year. They're looking ahead to this year.
Go, Going back to the Brandon Ayuk situation, um, which at Lake Louis Jr. follow him, he's been on this the whole time, even when Brandon Ayuk is crashed out. I want to point that out there because I'll have my guys back. Presuming he gets cut, which again, don't know why a team would trade for him. Kind of like
Right.
the kind of like the situation with Geno Smith got traded, but with the quarterbacks we've seen with Tua and Kyler, for example. Granted, contract not as bad, but for a receiver, it's bad considering what has happened since he signed it.
Hmm. Hmm.
What is the other moves of wide receiver? Obviously, is there a concern? Do you have you re-signed yet? Considering they did trade for him and he was productive. Um, Obviously, you have Terry, but it seems like they are being most patient with the receiver position. Obviously, assuming kind of like the Steelers are with quarterback, they're assuming that their guy will be available eventually.
Yeah. See, just in trying to know Adam as far as how things work with him. I think there's a wild card in the room, and this isn't just to create stuff, but I think the wild card is Carnell Tate. Okay. And I think that is someone that could be in play if they don't do anything else. But for me, I think this team would feel really good going into the season with Ayuk on the roster, with Terry, of course, the superstar. And then you have to throw another wild card in there, Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks was a first round draft pick. That tells you that the talent is there. Just never put it together in Tennessee for whatever reasons, different quarterbacks, no quarterbacks. But then last year you saw what other people have seen when he made the catch and he was, available. That when he's on the field, he makes plays, and he's a guy that can be a difference maker if everything were to just come together. And I think Washington feels like they're the team that's going to get it all to come together, and they're thinking this year. So if you get a first round talent to play like a first round talent, even if you get them to play like a second round talent, you've kind of, helped your cause in that wide receiver room. Luke McCaffrey last year, excuse me, was playing really well and was starting to show, why they've been so high on him in Washington, until he got hurt. Jalen Lane, V Tech guy, proved that he doesn't need to be a one, two, or three, at least not this point in his career. He still has to develop in that role, but he's a guy that's serviceable and he's a really good special teams guy. And everyone knew that coming out of Virginia Tech. So you think of just the way this room could form if IU comes, and I keep saying if, I've been saying he's gonna be a commander. It's just now that because Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco know how bad he wants to be a commander and how bad the commanders want him, they're trying to see if they can squeeze, a little bit of juice out of that lemon, and it's not gonna happen. No one's gonna pick up and absorb his contract when they know he's never gonna play in San Francisco. So yeah, I do think that the wide receiver position is still in play. If there's a great talent like a Carnell Tate sitting there, you might have to go with that. But I've been saying this: if you could trade back 3, 4 spots, maybe 5 spots, and pick up a Tyson or Makai Lemon from USC, you're still going to be okay. And now you've recuperated a pick.
But do you feel like the Commanders will make a big risk to get Brandon Ayuk because what he did with San Francisco? Because he wasn't a good situation, but you got to think about he blew it up himself, though. That's the only thing. Like, do you feel like you should put your trust into that?
Yeah, I do. Because every situation is different. We've all done things in our own personal lives that you might look back at and say, man, that's the best thing I ever did, even though I look stupid. Or you could go back and say, I look terrible and I shouldn't have done that. I think every situation is different. And I think in Brandon Ayuk's situation, and this is just me talking with people who are familiar with it, he didn't want to be there. I've said that over and over. And a lot of 49er fans thought I was making up stuff that I'm not. I'm telling you, he didn't want to be there. And it's quite apparent. I mean, when you forfeit $30 million, you didn't want to be somewhere. I mean, there's anybody can see that. If you just take off your fandom, your fan glasses and look at it for what it is. Did he handle it the best way? No, I'll be the first person to say that. But he didn't want to be there. So when people are saying, is he mentally stable? I don't think Jaden Daniels would roll with people who weren't. And I know someone might throw out Kyron Lacey in situation there. Well, we all understand that that was a terrible situation where the kid was basically being framed, So I say that one more time for people who are listening, and knowing Jaden and then knowing his family and knowing how he moves, I don't think he would associate himself with people who aren't good people. And I know that's a close friend of his and Brandon Ayuk, and we talked about Rashad White a few minutes ago. That'd be a nice Arizona State reunion in Washington. Colors wouldn't even have to change.
I was gonna say, is Herm Edwards joining the staff? Like that's
You
the
know what I
guy who
mean?
the guy who recruited them to Arizona State, which ironically that was the core of the team that upset a really good Oregon team that year. I just know random
Really
college football
was.
facts.
Yeah,
But
Justin Herbert.
and Mario Cristobal is now at Miami. Just shows how time goes on. But with this core of this team, you throw in Ayuk, you throw in whatever this draft pick is, and that's kind of going to be my focus. Is the pick is at 7, and people have talked about this with Kansas City, like the pressure to get this draft pick because you have Patrick Mahomes, but like
Mhm.
presuming even if you get just the floor of Jaden Daniels, theoretically you're not picking at 7 again, right? Like you're in a tough division with
Mhm.
I think 3 other good teams. So, like,
I
not
do
saying
too.
you're not gonna make the playoffs every year, but look at the NFC West this year. Like, if it's anything like that, you're still gonna pick 15th, 16th, 17th. Like, it's nowhere close to the top 10.
Yeah.
How important is this for Adam Peters? Like, last time they had a top 10 pick, it was 2, and it was easy. It was Jaden Daniels. And if the Bears somehow wanted Jaden Daniels, it was gonna be Caleb Williams. Like, it was really that easy. Like, you just pick the
Mhm.
other guy, and maybe they like Drake May. You pick one of those 3, and clearly look at what happened so far in the NFL is going to work out. This is different.
Yep.
This is something feels like unique. The first real pressure for this administration, where it's been sunshine and rainbows, if you want to call it. Like, it's been great. Vibes are great because you're going from bad, even if you're worse, go from bad, like you're a little bit better. So you're like not bad, you're bad. It still looks great considering where they
Right.
were. And I'm not saying they are. I'm just pointing out something. My point being, how important is this pick at 7, where presumably you're not going to be here anymore?
I mean, it's very important. Anytime you pick high in the draft, you have to nail it, because you don't want to be in that situation ever again. You don't. And Adam Peters' track record in Washington. I mean, that's the only track record he has as a GM. In Washington, his first round draft picks have been nailed, literally. Jaden, people probably think Stevie Wonder could have made that pick. It just doesn't matter. They were going to get a great player regardless of what they did. And that's not necessarily true. You had to get the perfect fit for your franchise. You needed to get the savior of your franchise, and you needed to get it correct, and they did. The whole narrative of Jaden not being available and he's injury prone and all, I mean, he didn't miss a game his rookie season. He got hurt in the game where he came out against the Panthers, but he didn't miss a game. He started 20 games his rookie campaign. Okay, so much for being frail. Last year, things happen, man. I mean, Patrick Mahomes just got knocked out for the season. Tom Brady was knocked out for a season. Joe Montana missed a lot of time, with a bad back in his career. I mean, it's just things happen. And, this whole narrative that's being pushed nationally that Jaden is just not an available player because he's always hurt is so untrue, because I can tell you on numerous occasions, Jaden wanted to play last year through those injuries. He wanted to keep playing. The team was looking out for his best interest by not playing him in some of those games and even shutting him down later in the year, but he wanted to play. So it's not like this guy's frail and doesn't want to participate when he gets a boo-boo. No, this was a team looking out for him. The other thing is that Josh Connerly last year, I mean, that was a hell of a football pick. It was, and it caught some people off guard, but they shored up a position on their line they felt like they needed. Now they have him and Laramie Tunsil booking, tackles for this team for the foreseeable future. So this year, yes, I'm confident that whoever Washington and Adam Peters selects is going to be a dog, at that number 7 pick if they keep it.
If they keep it, indeed. At Lake Lewis Jr., check out the Lake Lewis Jr. show wherever you podcast. Final question for you, Lake. This is a fun one. Carson Talp just signed. He's a Notre Dame basketball player. Just signed with the Colts. Colts have done this before. Shout out to Richmond. Shout out to VCU with Mo Alley Cox, who just re-signed. He's had 9 seasons in the NFL. All right, you're a basketball fan. If you could pick anyone in basketball, like, you can get them when they got in college. So, like, I will, like, for example, like, you don't want to pick LeBron now, but LeBron in college you could pick. Like, you know what I mean? To sign for the Commanders. Who's the basketball player you're taking?
And this is someone, they could be someone that's already in the league now, or does it have to be they're getting ready to go into the league?
I mean, I don't know how much college basketball you know, so if you want to pick a college basketball player, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I've tried over the last month to really get back into the college basketball thing because I hadn't watched it in years, to be honest with you, just because of work, I would say if I had to pick someone, if someone was already in the league and thinking about when they were coming out of school, it would have been Zion Williamson for sure. I could have seen him be a big time tight end, with that frame.
Seen him live, just seen his athletic ability live. I would. That's not a bad pick.
Yeah, I would definitely say. But as far as like, just from what I see, man, I gotta tell you, and this might sound crazy. The only reason I say this is because the guy that I see a little bit of his game in was a hell of a football player, and people don't realize it outside the state of Virginia. Darius Acuff Jr. is a guy
Mm.
that I could see being a heck of a football player. I'm sure he's got football in his background somewhere.
And
He reminds me a little bit of Allen Iverson, and you all know how great Iverson was at football. Might have been a better football player than basketball player, ironically.
yeah, Michael Vick, like just to show how good AI was. If AI was like what 3 inches taller, he's probably a quarterback in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
AI, like Vick said, AI is better than him, and that's Michael Vick, like who is
So
Michael
so
Vick.
you look at a guy like Kyler Murray, who is not 6 feet. Okay.
Yeah,
That was Allen Iverson size wise. Maybe not girth, but just as far as
mm,
height. Okay. Is Iverson better than Kyler Murray? I think a lot of people are going to say yes. I'm talking about when he was in the height of his football high school days. Was he
that's
Kyler
tough
Murray
because you're
coming?
you're picking that might be a good comparison because Kyler. People forget about Kyler in high school. Like he was like the most
Was a
accomplished
legend.
Texas high school quarterback like ever.
Yes, he was. He was a
So
legend. And also, just to make it drive this point home even more, Kyler Murray was the number one pick in the draft. So what does that tell you about Iverson?
and top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. Just to show the two sport athlete stuff. That's not a bad
Yep.
pick. Mo Cox has been a really good tight end in the NFL, considering he played zero and I remember when he was at VCU. And someone who also dominates the 804 is Lake Lewis at Lake Lewis Jr. Check
I
him out.
appreciate
Lake
it.
Lake Lewis Jr. show wherever you get your podcast. He is he's always a great hang, and we appreciate your time this morning, my guy.
All right, appreciate you, man. Good seeing you guys.
When we come back, we'll touch quickly on Liberty's NIT win over George Mason, and then we'll break the game down with Bryson Gordon as well. This is the morning warm up on VTRN Sports. When the thrill of playing ball turns into the agony of a broken windshield or car window, contact Apple Auto Glass. Your local auto glass repair shop on Allegheny Avenue in Lynchburg, Apple Auto Glass provide a professional assessment with the honesty from your neighbors, so you can get back to sharing the great moments this season.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Ruritan Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps CASA volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
Hi, I'm Susan Lane, Ed's mom. March Madness brings lots of picks, but I have only one, Bartlett Tree Experts. I rely on Bartlett to professionally assess my oaks and boxwoods and to prepare a maintenance plan within my budget. Call Corey, a certified arborist, at Bartlett Tree Experts or go to bartlett.com.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials for routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg, and pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot.
Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Marketoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time sharing that fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Marketoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer vent. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer vents through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer vents, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:44 on this Wednesday, March 18th. Welcome back to the morning warm-up. I'm Trey Lyle. That's Tyrone Tracy. Ty, who would be your pick quickly for my question that I gave Lake at the end? Basketball player that could be a tight end in the NFL. And if you want to pick someone in college, go right ahead. I think actually Toby Lawal would be not a bad pick because he has insane jumping ability. You got to get some bulk on him, but like he could. I mean, honestly, just play him at receiver and just throw a jump ball to him. He's going to jump over everyone.
Is it like right now, or like anybody from the past?
Oh, my number one pick is LeBron James.
You know,
easy.
I'll say this
or Ant. Ant's a sneaky.
I'll say two people, Ant or Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, but Russ is still like granted tight end, but I think LeBron. Like watching LeBron. Remember back in the day, the lockout.
Yeah.
It was LeBron versus KD in a flag football game.
Yeah.
LeBron was awesome.
But I think it just Russ athletic ability, like people don't understand.
Not a bad pick. By the way, Liberty, so mention it. Liberty got the win last night, 77-71. We'll talk about this with Bryson. No Caden Matheny. He got hurt in the Missouri State game and tried to push through it during the Conference USA tournament. Zach Cleveland, 9 points. Josh Smith led the way with 23 last night. And nice win for Liberty. They'll take on the winner of Nevada and Murray State and in the next round in the NIT. If Murray State wins, I believe Liberty is hosting. But Bryson can confirm to me that in a moment. All right, when we come back, the aforementioned Bryson Gordon, newsvans.com on Liberty's win and what else to talk about when it comes to the Flames. This is the morning warm-up on VTRN Sports.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles. One amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Rurton Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps Casa volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
Hi, I'm Susan Lane, Ed's mom. March Madness brings lots of picks, but I have only one, Bartlett Tree Experts. I rely on Bartlett to professionally assess my oaks and boxwoods and to prepare a maintenance plan within my budget. Call Corey, a certified arborist at Bartlett Tree Experts, or go to bartlett.com.
When the thrill of playing ball turns into the agony of a broken windshield or car window, contact Apple Auto Glass. Your local auto glass repair shop on Allegheny Avenue in Lynchburg. Apple Auto Glass provide a professional assessment with the honesty from your neighbors, so you can get back to sharing the great moments this season.
What do high-performing athletes have in common? They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. The best competitors have a strong mental support system that keeps them focused, confident, and at the top of their game. Want that same support in your own life? Central Virginia Counseling can help. No matter what life throws your way, our team is here for you with 2 Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road, and telehealth available anywhere in Virginia. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors. At Brownstone Properties, you'll find homes with private yards, with locations near scenic walking trails, or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials, routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg, and pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected with the show at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app, or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:50 on this Wednesday, March 18th. As a man just dropped stuff, just dropping things. Joining us at Bryson Gordon on Twitter. Bryson, everything okay?
Yeah, I was devastated. You guys missed an obvious pick in the tight end, NBA player in the tight end draft. I've been upset all morning. I don't know, maybe you talked about it with Lake, and I just missed it. But Zion, man, I think he'd be the best
That
of
was
them
his
all.
pick. That was Lake's
Okay,
pick.
okay. I must have just
Lake
joined
picked
after,
Zion.
but yeah.
So yeah, Lake picked Zion. Ty said he was overrated. So, but it's someone who's seen Zion Williamson, especially Duke Zion Williamson live in person, and thought they're different human species. I don't think it's a bad pick. But speaking of some hoops, let's get back to it. Liberty is in the NIT, and before we break down the game, obviously point of discussion has been play or not play. Obviously, Virginia Tech decided not to play. I went on my rant about that yesterday, and why I thought it was the wrong decision. Ultimately, you talked to the team last night. You talked to Richie McKay a couple times. They're coming off a very disappointing Conference USA tournament where they go one and done. Ultimately, why do you think they chose kind of this, and you can call it last ride, last dance, in the NIT?
Yeah, I think they chose it. I would say honestly, partially because of the composition of the team. You look at it's a pretty older team, not just with Caden Matheny out, but Zach Cleveland being a senior, Colin Porter being a senior, Brett Decker obviously a sophomore. But if you listen to the broadcast like last night, they're talking like he's got a foot out the door. At least that's what Randolph Childress says. But they have an older team in general, and so I think after the disappointment of the Conference USA tournament, to get one last chance, right? You don't want to go out with a sour taste in your mouth from losing to that Missouri State game, and so. For this team, I think you kind of just saw a lot of the players talk about it last night. At least Josh Smith talked about it last night. Like, yeah, we were really disappointed for 48 hours or a couple days after that Missouri State loss. Probably as long as the Conference USA tournament was going on, they were disappointed. And then I think when they found their their assignment from George Mason, realized they were playing in state, realized they were playing close, had the chance to play for another championship in the NIT. I think that changes things. And, whenever you kind of put that disappointment in the rear view and you refocus, I think Josh Smith used the word recalibrate. When they recalibrated, I think they, Richard McKay said they found out they played a little bit with more freedom in the first half. And I think you saw that kind of helped them jump out to a little bit of a lead, which kind of buoyed them down the stretch of the game. But I think it was a bit of motivation to not to not have this incredible senior class, particularly with their big three, end on such a sour note, and to give them an opportunity to be able to put together maybe another win or two. And they got one, so maybe they could make an extended stay here in the NIT.
We got some more context to that game. Again, the obviously presumably the game against in the Conference USA tournament and kind of the injuries they were battling. Now that you knew, does it add any more perspective in the fact that Caden Matheny did get hurt against Missouri State and ultimately was a little banged up in that Conference USA tournament and ultimately was held out of this game, considering obviously a calf injury is very serious, considering not the calf injury itself, but risking playing on a weakened calf and what it's led to. If you look at obviously Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum and Tyrese not Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton all ended up tearing their Achilles because of a calf injury. Like, what was the Matheny thing, and ultimately why was he held out of this game?
Yeah, they, we found out last night that he wasn't going to play. Pretty much when the broadcast came on, he was dressed out. Wasn't We saw he wasn't starting on the stat broadcast, which is submitted a little bit early on, and so we weren't really sure. There was no announcement that he was struggling with an injury after the Missouri State game. Obviously, nothing going into that. Looking back on it, I don't know if it's something that would have changed the outcome of that game a whole ton. I don't think that had an impact on why Liberty was unable to stop Michael Osi Bonsu and kind of play against the way that Missouri State was wanting to play down the stretch. But I do think not having him last night is kind of disappointing. I think maybe it provided them a little bit more motivation to go win and perhaps get him another game. Richie McKay didn't speak too much on whether Caden would be available going forward if the team advanced. But I think perhaps it played another layer of motivation for them to say, hey, let's get back to the second round. Perhaps we can get back at home if Missouri State wins. The seeding is still to be determined on that, but they might have the opportunity to get a home game. And so maybe you keep winning for Caden and get him back out on the court. I will say this, I thought personally in the first half it was kind of noticeable, how good Liberty's defense was. I'm not saying that's because of Caden Matheny. I think that was because of a lot of other reasons why Liberty was playing a little bit more free in that spot. But I think you started to see last night, like how this team kind of works whenever they do two bigs with Josh Smith and Zach Cleveland for an extended amount of time, play JJ Harper in more of a traditional role for his size and his abilities. And I think in the first half, that was some of the best basketball that Liberty's played in quite some time. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. They built some good leads against some good teams in the last couple of weeks, but to be able to go up by 15 points against George Mason, hold them to 17 points for a good stretch of the first half, it was really defense, and that was something we haven't seen from Liberty in the last few weeks. And so I was kind of interested to see how that transpired without Caden Matheny, because we all know how great of a player Caden Matheny is, and what he means to this program. And I'm not trying to downgrade what he means overall, but I think that the team was a little bit sharper on the defensive end last night. I think that was certainly noticeable early on.
Ultimately, the Patriots erased a 15-point deficit at one point to tie the game at 65. Flames end up in the game on a 10-2 run to get the 71-61 victory, or 77-71 victory, excuse me. Again, you go back the last game they played, they blew some leads against Missouri State and let Missouri State get back in, and they not close out late. What do you think this win in particular meant for them? Did it feel kind of like reassurance, where obviously you dubbed it the Josh Smith game, 23 points, 9 boards, pretty good game for him. But like, a lot of the post game conversation was about recalibration and refocus. Like, you got thrown right back into the fire against the George Mason team that, again, the A-10 is a really good basketball conference. The George Mason had to play a lot of good teams this year. They played Virginia Tech. They played, obviously, VCU, St. Louis, Dayton, like in conference play. Like, looking at this game in particular, it felt like they're getting the same test, but this time they found the right answers.
Yeah, and they found the right answer late, and that was kind of the difference in a lot of the games, kind of going back and forth. As you mentioned, we have seen the movie of Liberty building at 15 or double digit, 17, 12, anywhere around in between 12 and 18-point lead. Even in some cases up closer to 20, here in the last few weeks, and find a way to, find themselves in a close game down the stretch. It's been a very common theme for them, and I think the impressive part last night was how they finished. And just to harp on the defensive end again, but just to go back on defense, right? There was that timeout. I think it was 3:15 to go, and the game was tied at 65 or 67, somewhere around in there. And Liberty held, they held George Mason to 0-5, 5 straight missed field goals in that stretch, and that helped them build out that 10-2 quick run and pretty much put the game away until that last layup by George Mason. And so you kind of go back to everything for this team, right? Liberty. We know so much about this group that just works on offense, whether it be with Caden Matheny, without Caden Matheny. Colin Porter makes it work. Zach Cleveland makes it work. They just have pieces that, other Conference USA teams and other teams, in mid-major college basketball don't necessarily have on the offensive end. But we've known the defense has been where they struggle, right? Ken Palm, I think it's 265th is where they were at yesterday, coming into the George Mason game. That's where they struggle. And so for them to come out, yesterday, as I mentioned in the start, and play well on defense, but not just that, but to be able to answer the bell late in the game, after you're playing on a road environment. Corey Mincy really struggled for George Mason, but he seemed to heat up there late in the second half, and he had a little bit of momentum going. And so to be able to stop all that, despite George Mason's first early comeback, to be able to stop that in the last 3 minutes or so, kind of put them on ice, and put the game away on the defensive end. I think that's kind of impressive, and speaks to something that we haven't necessarily seen from Liberty in the last few weeks. And I think that might have been the difference as to why they were able to close that one out last night, as opposed to how things got down, how things got away from them in Conference USA play. I think in Conference USA play, a lot of teams just decided to put their head down and go to the basket late in games. And George Mason wasn't doing as much of that, but Liberty just didn't have an answer a lot of times. And they found ways to have answers on defense last night.
At Bryson Gordon on Twitter, Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com. Bryson, final question for you. All right, if you had how far do you think Liberty can win this whole thing? Obviously, presuming seed holds, they would have a matchup with Auburn at some point, which is probably the favorite in the NIT at this point. The only time I'll give credit to Stephen Pearl, because his dad ruined it for me. I credit Auburn for actually playing in this tournament. But ultimately, do you think Liberty can win this thing?
Maybe not win, but I think they can win another game or two. I definitely. I mean, you look at what Auburn was doing. Auburn was struggling for a lot of the game last night. I don't think that there's a big gap between these mid-major teams and these high conference teams in the NIT. I think Liberty's going to get perhaps Nevada next. Maybe go out on the road again. Maybe get another home game. The next game is the one that I think they could still pick off. And then at that point, you're a win from playing in Indianapolis in the Final Four of this thing. Not the Final Four, but the Final Four of the NIT. So that's a big deal. I think they can make a run to Indianapolis. I don't know if they have what it takes to get it done and win two when they get there, but I think they have what it takes to win the Auburn Regional. Absolutely, especially when you consider how Auburn, I would say poorly they played for a lot of that game last night. They figured it out late, but yeah, I think Liberty definitely has a chance to win the Auburn region of this thing.
At Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com. Bryson, tons to talk about down the stretch. We'll sum up all of basketball, both men's and women's, once Liberty men wrap up, and we'll start getting to spring ball, buddy. So it's time, and also don't forget softball, baseball in action as well. So appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, big baseball game. I'll be there today. Liberty versus Virginia.
There we go. I was going to say, you are, of course, part of our front stretch bracket group. Do you have your national champion yet?
I do. Michigan.
Oh, well, I was going to say, the way he was sounding, you might have picked the Duke Blue Devils. But
no.
didn't.
They'd have to be unbeaten for me to go into the tournament and do
Just
that.
Reminder, go Rams. So 804 stand up. All right. For Bryson Gordon, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
At Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com. Speaking of our picks, Ty, tomorrow we make our NCAA tournament picks. We help you fill out your brackets because Ty and I are going to get it right. But that will do it for us today on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM, W227BG Timberlake, 1320 AM, WVG Lynchburg, WNA Great Southside. Thanks so much to Bryson. Thanks so much to Lake. Fun show today. Hey, give us your thoughts at Trey Lyle VT, at Ty Tracy 90 on what NBA player you think could be, or college. You can even pick a college basketball player you think would be a great tight end in the NFL. Thanks so much. Now to Unsportsmanlike, already in progress.
Very clear. I think they're there. They're competing. as competitors, they obviously care. But you could just sense it was a different level of care with some of these other countries, Venezuela being one.